If you're a frequent customer of Samsung the way that I am, you purchase everything from your TV and 4K players, from tablets and cell phones from the trusted brand. If you're already using Jabra headsets as your preferred audio tech provider, like I plan to very soon, then you know they provide a whole host of listening electronics ranging from workout earbuds, Bluetooth music headsets, and office hearing devices. If you use the link in the description for either Samsung or Jabra purchases, it'll help the channel out tremendously. With the promotional considerations accounted for, it's on with the show. Despite its announcement a month after I started my YouTube channel, I always imagined that if I reviewed my favorite show of all time, it'd be in hindsight. With that in mind, I'm happy to say our old friend is back for new blood. Therefore, it's on with the show. It was nice seeing our favorite serial killer on the hunt, even if it was for different prey than he's used to poaching. In the moment of the kill shot, when he found himself gun-shy, it was an interesting insight to his frame of mind after all these years. Considering that the regular season intro showed how his morning routine could be tied back to his double life, I thought it was a nice touch that they used his day in the life practices in this winter haven to depict what a stark contrast his new life is to the one he left behind in Miami. Speaking of, noting the date on the calendar of his self-imposed exile reveals a familiar face he's brought along for his wintry trip. Upon seeing the ghost of dearly departed Deborah, I couldn't help but wonder, is this the new face of his dark passenger, or the source of his past guilt? He's seen sharpening what looks like the tricks of his old trade when his badass new title card appears to welcome us to a grave new world.
Finish him!
Heading into town, apparently even up north, there's always a cop around when you don't need one. When the lady cop takes note of his concealed weapons, Dexter's treated to a strip search in progress. We soon discover that this is all a flirt, as the officer is indeed Dexter's girlfriend, which would have been a better reveal had the trailers not spoiled it. Oh, Dexter, you Chad, you just can't stay away from cops, can you? As Lady Cop and Lady Killer warm things up in the squad car, it's apparent that winter isn't the only thing that's coming. Once in town, we get our look at small-town cow country New York. Approaching the local butcher reveals the knives Dexter was sharpening weren't for him. However, the sight of blood, dismemberment, the scene of a fresh kill on a table being carved is a callback for Dexter that hits a little too close to home. Clearly, old habits die hard as Dexter still picks up the morning donuts, not to mention having chosen an occupation that keeps him close to some action. Speaking of the 9 to 5, he gets his first douchey customer of the day. It's ironic that we're in a gun store considering the caliber of snob from which rich kid's every word makes him deserving of a hollow point to his smug face. While attempting to bypass background screening for a gun purchase, he demonstrates an acute air of superiority and entitlement the likes just makes you hope he ends up on Dexter's chopping block. Afterwards, wouldn't you know it, a stopover at the police station for lunch with a girlfriend gets the town gossip going, digging up the dirt on the rich boy's sordid past, inadvertently providing Dexter everything he needs to bring up the juvenile up to code. With his girlfriend describing missing persons case of several women, it's as if the universe is daring Dexter to fall off the wagon. Lord have mercy. Line dancing. As if the sight of the cold didn't unnerve my every sense, the scene and sound of folksy do-si-doing made me want to drink. On that note, is it beer goggles on my behalf, or does Dexter's latest paramour look like Deborah? Well, there's no time to determine if that was a deliberate choice because it turns out that the odious Mr. Big Shot from the gun store is shooting his mouth off at the bar and blowing his wad of cash, buying the house around. Gee, I wonder if he'll drunkenly confront the local gun store clerk with renewed inebriated bravado and broach the subject on firearms acquisition by unlawful means under the guise of camaraderie. Already 5 sheets to the wind, the frat boy is so desperately persistent and clingy as he awkwardly shuffles over, I half expected him to use his black credit card to proposition Dexter.
I just smoked the wrong side of a cigarette! Who wants to go swimming? Oh, this song is about me!
Handling his rejection of the rifle's purchase with all the grace of a parolee, this guy proves a bigger glutton for punishment than Will Smith.
No, 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 no.
Finish him.
So while the T-1000 ominously rolls into town on his Tonka truck, there's a backpacker at the bar that's just got chalk outline written all over her.
I could feel like murder in the room.
After playing the part of last woman the hitchhiker will ever see alive, turns out Lady Cop's got a case of mommy issues and has to assume the role of Buzz Killington to put a stop to her daughter's house party. Meanwhile, Dexter can't shake the feeling that he's being pursued by a potential spoiler alert. He's up bright and early for his morning jog with a rifle when something spooks his kill. Considering the conversations with his sibling spirit, Deborah appears to have replaced the Dark Passenger, as in, Dexter's killer instinct has indeed been supplanted of all things by culpability.
Something finally got to you. I guess you're human after all.
We go now to an insurrection in progress from a bunch of anti-vaxxers. Oh wait, it's just activists mad about economics or something. This minor nuisance calls for a major inconvenience as Dexter now has to hand-deliver the rifle to the trust fund baby. What I was sure would result in a lethal confrontation with a house full of eyewitnesses, drunk and drugged up as they are, instead proactively, or provocatively, depending on how you look at it, enticed something repressed within Dexter. It is a chance encounter with the belittled best friend, not the rich boy, that further stirs the Dark Passenger up to the surface. The lackey, cracking under the anxiety of the spoiled brat's constant ridicule, spills the beans on his friend's troubled history that's worse than Dexter was led to believe. That's bad news for Dexter because it's good news for the Dark Passenger. Dexter struggles to keep his addiction at bay and sobriety intact, but that well-known color strikes a chord within him as he hears that familiar tune and bails. The reveal of the trespasser in his home triggers Dexter's guardian angel, and he's given a rundown of all the lives lost in his orbit. Even with this second and bigger twist spoiled by the trailers, Dexter coming face to face with his son after a decade makes for a genuinely gut-wrenching reunion. Every hero makes that if my enemies ever found out inner turmoil, but what's different is that this is the last piece of the real him. His connection to Rita, to his old life, to darkly dreaming Dexter. And he's forced to treat his son like a stranger before showing him the door. The real tragedy is that even if Harrison leaves, since this show is so unforgiving, would his departure spare Harrison his fate? Regardless, this interaction was a real kick in the plums for our anti-hero. To burn the picture, the last vestige of who he was, is just a reminder that he's an imposter. He's hollow. When he goes to reel in his catch of the day, apparently he's baited Jason Voorhees. It's clear he's haunted both by his past and a lacking future, but which is worse? Considering his pursuit, as well as the wintry setting, it was at this point that I was starting to get real Hannibal vibes from him hunting his buck. Just then, Alec Baldwin yells, "Cold gun!" and shots fired. Ironic that it's Mr. Moneybags douchebag to ruin this wildlife moment because it's this brazen act that brings out Dexter's true nature. Now that he's reacquainted with his old friend, with one hand on the wheel, he slips into his old ways, and it still fits like a glove. Maybe it's because it's been a while, or that the script is just that poignant, but this dialogue between host and hostage is nothing short of epic. I could go on to describe this discourse in detail, but I'm not spoiling anything. Watch the episode for the payoff of this money shot. After all, didn't we love this series for the build-up to these table moments? I can't remember the last victim so very deserving of the blade. Funny how a little dismemberment can lead to a change of heart. Against his better judgment, Dexter decides to reconcile with his estranged son. But even after such an act of good, evil still leaves its mark. To be fair, there were some sore thumbs left over by our serial killer show. I felt that Harrison's return was rushed for the first episode, but I'm willing to watch it play out. It was awfully convenient for the privileged son happened to be hunting alone, and even if out of practice, it's hard to believe Dexter would leave blood trails behind. Regardless, this was a solid return to form for the series, and I'm in it for the long haul in this dead of winter. After all, despite the chill of murder in the winter air, it's always good to get the old blood pumping.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.